Hello, everyone. How's it going? Hey, Nick, how's it going, buddy? Aiden, good to see you. Welcome, guys. Welcome. Chat's coming up like that. Okay, understood. The second Nick has arrived. He beat you to it. He beat you to it. How's it going, everyone? The F1 is back. It's back. I wasn't able to do the pre-season testing because I was at work. So today I have a university day. So I am finished and I thought, let's jump on and do FP2. I watched FP1, which was interesting, I think, to say the least. Still a few little unknowns, I think, but this session's going to be very key, guys, because this is the only practice session which is in the same conditions that we will have in the race on Sunday and for qualifying. So this is the all-important practice session. FP1 and FP3, not so much. But yeah, this is the important one. So we'll see probably a true reflection of pace, and see if anyone does any quali runs, some race simulations. So yeah, we need Crofty back on YouTube highlights. Who does the YouTube highlights now? Is it Alex Jacks? Happy to see your video, Suzuka, recommended to me, and I crashed out for a second time in a row. Oh no. Was you in that race, Nick? I can't remember who was in that race. Yeah, it was the one I did last night. It was nice to get some. It was nice to finish and get some points on the board. The 100% F1 races are back tonight, though, so I'm hoping to do that tonight. But, yeah, interesting first practice session, guys. So we did have, if you missed it, we had Danny Ricciardo, Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, and Yuki Tsunoda as the fastest four. They ran the soft tyre towards the end of the session, so they was able to set a really quick lap time. And then we had an interesting next kind of 7-8 cars, because we had Alonso, Verstappen, Russell, Leclerc, Hamilton, Perez, Sainz. Basically like your top 7 drivers from last year, I think it was. All separated on the medium tyre by 2 tenths. So yeah. But here we go, we got track clear. The timer is now counting down, and we have the first time I've seen this year on our beautiful track map and timing sheets, the bright, luminous green. Yeah, luminous green Stake F1 car. Original practice commentator is also replaced by Alex. Okay. Yeah, I know obviously during quali through the practice sessions or the tests, they did a combined commentary package, didn't they, with Sky and the F1 TV team, which makes sense because there's only so much you can talk about during that period of time. It's a long amount of time. But yeah, cars out on track. Ocon, Magnussen out on the soft tyre, Piastri on the medium, Norris on the medium. So, of course, we still kind of don't know relative pace to people. We still expect Red Bull to be quickest, but how quick will they be compared to others? See, we're still waiting to see true pace be displayed by the teams. They're still kind of holding their cards close to their chest, guys. So, yeah. But I mean, what was quite worrying for Haas, if you're a Haas fan, guys, 5 seconds off the pace. They were 19th and 20th, so we'll keep an eye out on the Haas and see if they can show a little bit more relative pace in this session. But yeah, this will be the interesting one. Penalty for Ocon again. Morning, Taco. They really are, aren't they, Eden? That's what it kind of seems like. Oh no, we have our first infringement of the 2024 season, guys. Valtteri Bottas, pit lane infringement. What did he do? He was the first one. He was the first one at the end of the pit lane as well. So what has he done? I did ask everyone's predictions. What's everyone's predictions in relation? What's everyone's predictions for this season? Do you still think Max is going to win? Do you think Ferrari is going to challenge? Do we think Mercedes have sneakily created a good car as they've gone back to the drawing board and completely redesigned their car for this year? What do we think? You think RB? So this is the thing now. I need to elaborate, Luca. Do you mean RB as in Visa Cash App RB? Because that's what the commentators are referring them to. RB. Or do you think Red Bull? Red Bull, yeah. I thought so. But yeah, it's going to get confusing. Sometimes I'm going to read the chat and people are going to be talking about actual like RB. Do you think over the course of the season it will be Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren, Merc, VCarb? Aston 6th, interesting. I don't think McLaren are going to be that strong again. I think they've slipped up at the start of the season again as they did last year. I think eventually they'll sort it out, but Alpine 7th, Kick 8th. Ooh, Williams and 10th. Interesting. Interesting. So, I agree with Haas. I do think they'll be bottom. I would switch Williams with Kick. I agree with your... I do agree about the V-Carb. I do think they're going to be pushing... I think they're going to be sneakily quick at some of the circuits this season. That's going to make their partnership with the ownership, which has already been questioned by Zach Brown, with Red Bull. I think it's going to make them question that, or more people question it. I think there's going to be a sneaky one. I genuinely think so. I disagree with McLaren. I don't think they're going to finish that high up. It wouldn't surprise me, and it was a bit of a hot take earlier, which I tweeted. I think McLaren might genuinely have a fight on their hands with VCarb and Aston. And I think the top three, again, will be Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes. If I didn't get Max 6, yeah, well, look, there's not much they can do about that now. Danny will get a podium. I think so. I think he'll comfortably beat Tsunoda. I think, here's another hot take, guys. If Perez has issues like it has that lull like he did last season, I think you could see Danny Ricciardo's doing very well. We know they're not afraid to change drivers middle of the season. It wouldn't surprise me if they put him straight at the... it wouldn't surprise me if they put Danny Ricciardo in the Red Bull this season if Perez is not doing great. But they don't dick about, do they? So, but Hamilton at the top of your timing sheets, guys, in the Mercedes W15, purple across the board, a 130.7. To put that in perspective, pole position last year was a 20.7, a 29.7, I think it was. It was in the 29s. So, yeah, decent time in comparison when you compare it to Leclerc, who was also on a set of brand new softs. Perez and Sainz. That's a second quicker than those lot. I don't know about traffic. I wasn't paying too much attention to the track map, so not a bad benchmark. You think Alpine will be lower than that? Yeah, I think and someone's made a very good prediction in the Missed Apex crew. They think Alpine won't be in F1 by 2026, and I think they're a bit of a mess at the moment. So just watching. Oh no, Valtteri Bottas crossed the red light. Red light line, basically, on the pit lane. So, yeah, we'll see. That is what they are investigating. But Valtteri Bottas went too far at the end of the pit lane. But Alonso there, fastest in the middle sector. Doesn't have a tow from anyone, as I think Leclerc will probably be eyeing up another lap unless he comes back into the pits. But let's see what Alonso can do. And Alonso goes second, a 31.0. Verstappen, only driver not to have done a lap yet, currently in the pit lane. But Perez straight back out on a new set of softs now. So I'm not quite sure what the tyre allocation is here this weekend, but I think Bahrain, it's quite high degradation. So the soft tyre is only really relevant in the is only really relevant if from memory in qualifying, so it's not really a race tyre. Predictions for the Merc seat in 2025. I think it all depends on how Antonelli does. I think from the reports that I'm hearing, like the reason why they didn't extend Lewis any further than that 2 years was because of they didn't want to lose a talent like Antonelli. They said supposedly Verstappen was on their radar back in the day, but because they had a strong driver pairing of Rosberg and Hamilton, they passed up on that opportunity and Red Bull nabbed him up. How true that is, I don't know. But Antonelli, they rate very, very highly, kind of in the same regard as Verstappen. So we'll see how he does in F2 this year. If he has a stonker of a year in F2, I think they'll just promote him early into that team for next year and bed him into that team for a year with then the change of regulations in 2026. So that would kind of make sense. You've got George, the experienced one. If not, if he doesn't have a good year and they're like, okay, he needs another year to develop in F2, which is understandable, he's still only young. Leave him in F2, and I think you get a stopgap for 1 year. And I do think Fernando Alonso, they'd bring in Fernando Alonso for 1 year. One of the most adaptable drivers ever in F1. One of the most talented. He'd definitely be able to jump in that car and if he's got a decent machine underneath him, compete for race wins and go out on a high on what would probably be his last year in F1. So yeah, that'd be very that's my kind of theory behind it all. I think there'll be a number of drivers eyeing up that position. Esteban Ocon most definitely will be. Although I feel like, I don't know, I don't see Esteban Ocon I think Ocon would end up being another Perez in a top team. That's just my opinions. Don't know about you guys. Taco agrees with me. Either Kimi Antonelli or Fernando. I think Seb would be next year. I don't know. I think Seb's opportunity is gone now. I think if Seb came back, I think it'd be a PR stunt for another team, but I don't see him coming back into a competitive team. Like, he's in his mid to late 30s now, and while obviously he's a fan favourite and people would like to see him back, I think there's too much good young talent available now for teams to look at rather than looking back in the past. Like, with respect to Seb, he's had his time. Like, before he had his, like, he wasn't amazing in his latter years before his retirement. He had a great, after he announced his retirement, he had a great end to the season. But I think it'd be kind of uninspiring from any team to bring back Seb. I think it would only be because of like PR reasons, to be honest with you. Hey Vlad, good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. Yeah, welcome everyone. So, apologies about the chat on the screen. I know not you. I know all of you don't particularly pay too much attention to it. It's more so in the actual YouTube chat. But Max now is out on track, and he is doing laps. And let's see what he does when he comes across the line. Only green sectors on a brand new set of softs. And he goes fourth fastest, a 31.2. Interesting. So still not a lot to be read into it. Although what I think you can say is that the Mercedes and the Aston Martin do look. I think the Mercedes does look a lot better than people probably would expect it to be. They're brand new car. It's a whole brand new car, so it's a very much of an unknown. But I think we could already kind of say they're in a much stronger position, it seems, with that car than they have been the last two years. Of course, we need to see what the relative true pace is of that Red Bull. I can't imagine Max has gone straight out there and started to push on a brand new set of softs anyway. He's gonna want to keep that tight under his sleeve until qualifying tomorrow. Plus, Vettel might not be in F1 shape. Yeah, that's true as well. Sargent does too well, then Kimi will replace him at 2025. No, I don't think so, Eden. I think they would probably just keep him in F2 for another year. I think Williams are their own team while they still have a relationship with Mercedes, obviously with the Mercedes engine and James Vowles. I think James Vowles is quite clearly and evidently trying to set out his own stall at Williams and not take on a lone driver as a sense. I know Albon is there, but I think they've got a strong. I feel like they've got a strong connection with Albon, and I think they're quite confident that Albon probably wouldn't go back to Red Bull. I know there's been lots of rumours about, and Helmut Marko even came out and said, "Oh, yeah, Albon's under contract till 2025, like with Red Bull and stuff." I think Albon's like, yeah, I've been there, done that. I think I know what I have to do when I'm alongside Verstappen, and I'd rather be somewhere else where a team is evolved around me rather than going back into another top team where it didn't work out. There's already going to be an extra amount of pressure on him because he's been there, fouled once already before. Logan Sargent, I think, is quite evidently, of course, is there commercially because of American owners and because he's American. So Mercedes is finally planted to the ground, yeah. Don't understand why every team has push rod suspension at the back. It gives you more user space. So the reason why the majority of them have push rod now, this is my very limited technical knowledge here, Brad. The reason why is because it seems to be the best suspension that works with this era of regulations. So in regards to ground effect. Now, the biggest issue with Mercedes, from what I've been informed, over the last couple of years is that their suspension system, particularly their rear suspension, was just not working with the floor that they had. The side pods weren't the be all and end all. Most people put it down to the no side pods, but actually it was how the floor worked with the rear suspension, and apparently that's what Red Bull have done so right, is get their suspension correct. And of course they've got a great floor as well, but how that all interconnects together and works together is what's made Red Bull so good. And that's why a majority of the teams, apart from maybe, I think it's Ferrari, have copied Red Bull, because it's a system that works and because it works in this regulation set with regards to the ground effect. That's my very limited knowledge on the system. Don't ask me what push rod does. Don't ask me what the other system is. That's just what I've read and been informed by a lot more knowledgeable people than I in that technical expertise. Williams, Ferrari, and Haas still have pull rods. Yeah, well, Haas, it would make sense because Haas purchased stuff from Ferrari. Ferrari had a good car. Ferrari had a good car last year. A quick car, sorry. I'll say a quick car, not a good car. A quick car. but they just obviously wasn't suitable over a race distance because it ate its tyres too much. So they've clearly stuck with it and think they can make it work. But Max will win every. No, he won't this year, Eden. Yeah, I'm just watching. I mean, so this is what we're seeing is it's a very bumpy track, Bahrain. It's not actually been resurfaced since it was introduced 20 years ago. It has a lot of races on it. It has the World Endurance Championship on it. It has all the junior formulas on it. That's a long time, especially where you've got that mileage being covered on it, and you've got sand as well, which over 20 years will erode some of that surface because it is in a desert. So that's a long time for it not to be resurfaced, and that's why we haven't seen the track record be beaten for so many years, even though the cars are quicker, because the surface isn't quicker. So you'll see a lot of lockups down into T1 because of that. There's a bump they hit just before, just as they go into the braking zone. There's a bump they hit, and that causes them to lock up. Like if you go in your road car, as an example, and you go over a bump while you're braking, hear the car like skid. That's like a ever so slight lockup. That's exactly what happens in these F1 cars. That's much more tremendous speeds than what we are on the road under braking. What do I think about my F1 Weekend Wish, where there will be normal quali for a sprint race and then the main race is reverse championship order? No, I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of sprint races in general. I'm very much of the mind of quality over quantity, and I feel like we've got too much F1 on. If we had, like, we've got probably too many F1 races on in a year, 24. If we had 24 just main races, like the standard format, practice, quali, Grand Prix, I think that's probably the top end of what most people could accept. Back to it, we've got 6 races with sprints as well. Like, I'm just not a fan. Just not a fan. I mean, I'm very much like, I'm not saying I'm old school, but I think 20 is a nice round number. Go back to 20 races. But of course, having 20 races is not as lucrative as having 24 races. So yeah, unfortunately, money makes the world go round, guys. Anyone who says it doesn't is lying to you. Because unfortunately it does. And yeah, when it comes to sports, money rules sport as well, unfortunately. And that's where kind of Liberty Media are taking it, and that's why there's so many street circuits now. Why there's always talk about there being, I mean, Madrid's the latest street circuit. There's, because these places are paying a pretty penny for the privilege of being added to the calendar. Increase the budget cap. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yeah, because you've got to think they're using the same pit crew as well across all of these races. That's a lot of mileage and a lot of airtime and a lot of time away from families that they probably initially didn't sign up for, but they've now have to accommodate to their lives. So yeah, I just don't think the sprint races adds any quality. And I think anyone who goes, oh, they're all good, like you hear Sky F1 say like, oh, well, they are good, like the drivers say they weren't going to go for it and then they do, and it's like, have we truly had a memorable sprint race since they've been introduced? I can't actually remember any. Like, when I think of full-length races, there are certain races that come to my mind where I'm like, that was a classic. That had drama. That had great racing. And then I think of sprint races and I'm like, which ones come to my mind where I'm like, oh, what a race that was? Qatar, yeah, but I mean, Qatar was only good because there was a crash. And I think if you're judging that a race is good because of crashes, I don't think that's a testament necessarily of a good race. For me, I want to see racing. I don't want to see people crashing out. Brazil Sprint 2021 and 2023. Yeah, but what happened in those races? Like, I can't. I know Lewis made up some positions. Obviously, made up those positions, didn't he, in the sprint race in Brazil? But even so, like, I remember the full race more than I do the sprint race. Maybe it's just bias, but bigger budget cap for the back teams, yeah. Just go back to Sepang and Germany. Yeah. Well, the thing is as well is that, like, I like Imola. I think Imola's a great track. However, it's not suitable for modern F1 because the cars are much bigger, they're wider, they're longer. So, Hammer, thank you for the sub, buddy. Thank you for the sub. Miss unreliability. So do I, KR. Yeah, I mean, how often do we now see, other than like the lower teams, the top teams are so good with their reliability. But I feel like a lot of the time that's down to them having to run their engines turned down and stuff like that. I get obviously that it's part of modern Formula 1, but it's interesting. But yeah, I mean, Red Bull had what reliability issues have they had over the last 2 years? Apart from like the first 2 races, wasn't it? Saudi and Bahrain not last year, the year before, where their engines, they had a fuel line issue or something, wasn't it? That caused them both their engines to cut out. Other than that, they've had like no reliability issues, and that's partly because they've had such a quick car where they haven't had to push it to its limits too often, and they're not putting really any stress on the car. But even then, like, Ferrari and Mercedes have got much better at it. Aston Martin had a couple of issues, but Imola was good until the cars got huge. Yeah, exactly. We need to go to circuits that are suitable for modern Formula 1. And the likes of Malaysia, Sepang, very wide circuit. Germany, Hockenheim or the Nürburgring, like they're circuits that are wide enough, they're GP circuits that are wide enough to accommodate modern Formula 1. The car Haas for the championship this year? Once the new engines come in, I think reliability will come out. Yeah, probably. I think the hybrid engines they're so efficient. They've had so many times to work on them now. Yeah, we never really see. And I think also the fact that there's probably not, because there's not so many engines available to use in a season anymore, because they're limited to 4 now. I think, is it right? Is it 4 guys? But they wanted to go down to 3, but teams pushed back at that and they agreed 4. They can't run them at full capacity all the time. So that's the thing. Like, you give them like unlimited amount or more engines to use. We're actually more likely to see engines that are more likely to blow up, shall we say? Because teams will then direct more focus on development on the performance side rather than the reliability side. So they need to balance that element of like, well, we've only got a certain amount of engines to use per year. We really need to focus on making this reliable as possible. Whereas then if you get 3 more extra engines per year, you're like, right, well, yeah, we've got more to play with. Happy days. Let's go and make this as quick as possible. Then you're more likely to have, cars go pop out on the track in a safe way. Of course, don't want any harm to the drivers. But let's have a little rundown of what's happening out on track, though. Everyone has set a time now. So Lando did report he's having some issues with his steering, and so he's had to change the steering wheel. But we have the 2 Alpines down at the bottom there, just out on some fresh set of soft tyres. So we'll see how they go on. Ocon seems to be on a quick lap. Hamilton fastest once again in the first sector. No one yet able to beat his best lap time. Sainz got very, very close there. 18 hundredths of a second behind him. on a brand new set of softs. But Hamilton purple once again in the first sector. So let's keep an eye out on his middle sector and see how he gets on. And see if that's purple again. Obviously, he's trying to beat his own lap time. Piastri up there in P3, only just behind Hamilton as well, a few hundredths. Hulkenberg. This track is going to get quicker and quicker, guys, as well as more people put lap time in, put more laps into it. So only green in the second sector. It's not to say that it isn't a bad time. It means it's quicker than his previous lap, the fastest lap he did, but it's not purple. And Hamilton improves. Hamilton improves by 4 tenths. I tell you what, Hamilton looks good. Looks good. But Verstappen. Now let's keep an eye on Verstappen. Verstappen is on an out lap. He's on a brand new set of soft tyres. Let's see what Verstappen can do. Can Verstappen go quicker? I think we all expect him to. But it's interesting that the McLaren on a brand new set of softs hasn't been able to match Hamilton's time, the one he set before on a brand new set of softs, as well as the McLaren. But we'll see. But no one's really running medium tyres here. Everyone's saving those for the weekend. Of course, the medium tyre, the hard compound tyre are going to be the race tyre of choice. Very high deg here at Bahrain. So the soft tyres were going to be used in this session. It's the only relative session we have to the race on Sunday and qualifying as well tomorrow. And 2360 engines will be higher revving, will they? Interesting. The McLaren 60 tomorrow. I don't care about that one. I want Senna's one. Senna's one looks good. Max doesn't need... No, of course he doesn't, Eden. No, of course he doesn't. But we're looking... We don't know where the teams are in relative pace to each other at the moment. So this is all interesting to keep an eye out on. So, right, keep an eye out on Max. Let's see how fast he's able to go on a brand new set of softs. So, only green in the first sector. So he's only green. Let's see what he'll be able to do in the second sector. Keep an eye out on him. I'm just looking at the sector times. Piastri actually has the fastest middle sector of anyone. Hamilton's actually third. When it comes to the speed traps, Verstappen has actually been quite far down in the speed traps. I mean, we're only talking a couple of miles an hour, to be honest with you guys. But he's 13th in the speed traps through sector 1, 2, and he's 14th across the finish line. So that Verstappen, that Red Bull actually isn't that quick in a straight line. Whereas Hamilton is 9th, 7th and 3rd across the finish line in the speed traps. Verstappen only goes 4th. Now, is that because they're running a bit of extra fuel and they're still trying to hold back their pace and not show their true pace? I don't know, but yeah, that's a bit telling in regards to the speed traps. Normally they don't lie. I mean, actually, as he's crossed the finish line there, he's 13th across the board. He's 13th in the speed traps everywhere. So, and he's 1 off Hamilton there, 2 miles an hour, and then 2 miles an hour. So he's like 2 miles an hour down across the speed traps everywhere. Interesting, guys. But yeah, we'll see. Why is my sky just turned off? No! The engine must be turned down. Well, Possibly. Possibly. Maybe they're running more fuel. I mean, I think there was. I mean, Russell's gone second. I think Mercedes. So there was rumblings. There was rumblings in after testing that Mercedes had proper sandbagged in testing. They were focused on just doing long runs. They weren't focused on doing any quick lap times. Like, they had a very specific testing plan set out. But look, regardless of whether that Max is still quicker, it's a lot. You can't argue that it's not a lot closer and a lot more intriguing. So but yeah, interesting, guys, interesting. So Norris still not back out on track. So Norris has had some issues with his car by the looks of it. Not looking good. What is it with McLaren and Bahrain, guys? They really don't like Bahrain. They really struggle, don't they? Alpine's at the bottom there, as is Bottas, as the two kick teams, Stake F1 team drivers. Tsunoda down the bottom there. Danny Rick and Albon. I think we could see some. I don't know. Will we see some fights with Danny Rick and Albon this year? I still think that RB is going to be quite comfortably ahead of the Williams team, but we'll see. But yeah, Alpine definitely look like they're going to struggle, don't they? Could Andretti buy them out in a couple of years' time? See, Stroll currently ahead of his teammate Alonso. Leclerc not having the best of times in ninth. Neither has Perez. But yeah, look, it's still kind of all guesswork. But this is the only relative practice session to the conditions we are going to get in qualifying and in the race on Sunday. So that is something to say and something to take into account as well. But yeah, Verstappen most likely still has quite a lot on board. Haven't heard anything on Sky in regards to if he's made any comments about the car at all. Apparently it's quite cold out on track. What is the track? I mean, track air temperature out there's only 17 degrees. That and 22 degree track temperature. That's quite cool for Bahrain. 5 numbers. 5 no's. Wait till Verstappen clears the field by a minute in a race. Yeah. Well, look, we've seen that the last 2 years. I'm forever an optimist, guys. I'm forever an optimist, and my logic is that I still expect Red Bull to be out in front because they had such an advantage over the rest of the teams over the last 2 years. So for them to make up that deficit is like Braun level type of wizardry. To get to make up that amount of time in a year even. However, I am very much an optimist. How much of a ceiling? Oh, Leclerc saying everyone's sleeping. How much of a ceiling has Red Bull already hit? How much better can they actually make that car? But the gains that they can probably make on that car are not as big as what they can the last couple of years. And also as well, while Red Bull absolutely nailed it compared to everyone else, that's it. I mean, that's a big factor of why they were so far ahead, is that they absolutely nailed it. You don't often see the likes of Mercedes and Ferrari and the other teams just completely cock up the way that they did in regards to getting their concepts wrong. So you think in a couple in that 2 year period that they've learned from their mistakes and that they're able to then get on the right track again, and that gap to Red Bull will be a lot closer. And I feel like, yeah, I mean, Red Bull, as being the top team, they've obviously got more to lose than they have to gain. And Mercedes were very much an unknown because they've started from scratch again. So quite clearly, it's worked for them. How close has it brought them to Red Bull? We'll see at the weekend because that's where it is. The proof is in the pudding. Even qualifying still doesn't mean a lot in modern F1 now these days. A lot of drivers will set up their cars and sacrifice qualifying for the race on Sunday. We've seen drivers do that in the past. So yeah, even if someone like Max goes out there and completely like blitzes it in qualifying, that's not to say he's gonna completely blitz it on Sunday, or anyone for that matter, because you don't know how they've set up for the race on Sunday with obviously part Ferme rules. So Red Bull have blown beam wing, giving them more downforce. They had it from 2022 and nobody is talking about it. Okay, that's a new term for me, Vlad. What exactly is that then? What have they done there in regards to that rear wing? So is that why you think they was able to run their car a lot lower than everyone else? Because if you look at the circuits where Red Bull suffered, I say suffered like they were slower and we had closer races, was because Red Bull were forced to raise the ride height and they went more conservative. Circuit the Americas, Singapore is the biggest admission of that. They got the setup wrong, the ride height was wrong because of the bumps, the bumpiness of the track, and in the ground effect era, the lower you can run the car, the more performance you gain. So yeah, it was no coincidence when they had to raise the ride height, and it brought them up to kind of like the same height levels of Mercedes and Ferrari. We saw closer races. Red Bull still had the advantage, but it was closer. It wasn't so big of a gap as we've seen in the past. But yeah, we'll see. It's interesting thus far. So Norris is back out on circuit, which is good for the McLaren fans. Let's see whatever issue he had. I think he had maybe an electrical issue or something. He was reporting he needed to come back in and change his wheel over. But let's see what the McLarens can do. Bahrain's never been a good circuit for them. Piastri, while he is 5th, he is only 4 tenths off of Hamilton's time there. And 2 tenths off of Russell in 2nd. So that's something to keep an eye on throughout this season as well, guys, is that at the end of last season, I mean, how close were the qualifying times? We had like less than a second separating like the top 15 cars. It was so close. Like if you was half a tenth down somewhere, it was a difference between you finishing on the front row to then qualifying in 8th. Like it was so tight. So that's something to keep an eye on this year, is how close the pack is, and hopefully, yeah, we get some closer racing, especially up front. But Norris there, so he's on an old set of softs, so he's just doing some laps. Let's see. But looking at the sector times there, we have Hamilton is fastest in the 1st sector with Russell 2nd. Funnily enough, the Mercedes aren't quick in the 2nd sector. So where you need more downforce, through obviously the S's there, 5, 6, and 7, and then down into 8 and 10, they're actually slower. But that's that's a little bit clever from Mercedes in regards to probably their setup, because you don't see too much overtaking there. We see the odd overtake down into 10. We saw Alonso do the cutback on Hamilton last year, but that was primarily more down to the grip difference in tyres. But most overtakes at Bahrain are done down into turn 1 and of course into turn 4. So if you're able to just hold the car up behind through the middle sector, it's not the be all and end all. And if you've got more top speed, which it looks like the Mercedes has compared to well, definitely the Red Bulls, it seems, then that's quite clever from them. Don't see too much overtaking down into turn 11 either, even though there's DRS there. So they have a hole in the bodywork at the rear. It's directly towards the beam wing. It uses the air from the front, combines it with hot temperatures from inside. Ah, okay. So is that why they reckon possibly their DRS was so efficient last year? Remember that? I mean, especially like the start of the year, that they were just blasting past people with DRS. If that would that have an element, that'd be why their DRS was so efficient, if that's the case. Am I still live, guys? I don't know if I am. I am. I'll also do a quick verification. Hang on. Should be all right. Let me know we're all good. Let me know if we're all good. Hey Timo, good to see you, buddy. But hit the like button, guys, if you can. I've only got 10 likes thus far. Hit the like button. It's the first watch along of the season. Of course, we'll be here for qualifying tomorrow and the race on Saturday. Saturday, guys, for the first 2 races this year. Because of Ramadan being a little bit earlier on in the year, we've got the first 2 races in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia on a Saturday. More info is in a video by former. Oh, okay, interesting. Plus, Rebel do a lot of things that add up, performance like the V shape. Well, I can't give it. Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm not too versed in the technical aspects of F1. I know like basics. I do kind of read some things that come up on my Twitter feed and in articles and that. But yeah, I don't normally go actively seeking that. Still got it takes up a lot of your time. So other stuff I have to focus on. But yeah. They've definitely got it right the last 2 years, and it's their advantage has been increased and is massive because the other teams have got it so wrong. But I think, well, you hope that the other teams now, after 2 years of being in this regulation set, know what they need to do to fix their cars and make them a lot quicker and more reliable on the tyres. That's the good thing about Red Bull, is that they was able to go not just go fast, but they could go faster for longer because they didn't eat into their tyres the way that Ferrari did, the way that Mercedes did. Is stream stuttering? I did just have to reload it, Timo. I did just have YouTube pop something up on my thing that I had to do, unfortunately. So that might have been why. But who's out there at the moment? Anyone out on some fresh tyres? No. So everyone now, I think, has done their quali sims. We have just over 15 minutes left, 16 minutes left of this session. And I think everyone's out there now just doing some kind of longer runs on these used sets of softs. So Sargent's in the pits. We've got Verstappen out there on 6-lap old hards, same as Piastri, Sainz, Russell, Hamilton. So time's now kind of a bit irrelevant. In regards to moving people up and down the leaderboard. But yeah, intriguing there. I mean, Haas has probably gone for a proper quali run down in 7th place. But will Sargent beat Albon this year, guys? I don't think so. I don't think so. But interesting that Norris is not going to look like he's going to get a quali run. Because of those technical issues he's had with the steering wheel, he is only going to be able to run, unless they come and pit him in. But I think most of these guys are going to be out there to the end of this session now. He's going to make a fast lap. There we go. We should be back, guys. We should be back. Apologies for the brief. Apologies for the issue there. Seems to have affected my my timing sheets and stuff as well. So let me just change scene and we'll sort that out. Why is that all the opposite way as well? Give me a second. There we go. We're back. I love technical issues. Not. Oh, thanks, Vlads. Yeah, I love it. I love doing this. I love the sim racing. I love the content creation side. So yeah, hopefully it's all good to the end of the end now. Said it's just sometimes an issue with my VPN. I think it was because I think I know what it was anyway. Right, let's have a look. Pirelli, BAHRAIN. So they've got their tyres. Here we go. So this was what it was last year. Apologies for the kind of lack of crispness to this image. You can see here, just bring it here for a sec. You can see here actually the soft is a viable tyre. I'm completely wrong. But I'm pretty sure the hard tyre doesn't always come into play here because it's just too cold, so it's very difficult for them to get temperature into the tyre. So, best content maker in the game doing Draft Masters. Yeah, it is good fun. It is good fun. Looking forward to rain coming next week as well. Oh, so everyone, if you're just joining us, thank you for joining us for the first watch along of the year 2024. Practice, the first relevant practice session of the year as well, because practice one was in a time and conditions that are not relevant to qualifying and the race on Sunday. What means the sector numbers? So Renan, so we have sector 1, sector 2, sector 3, so that's different parts of the circuit. They're split into 3, and that's underneath are their interval times between each sector. So if they're yellow, then it means that they've gone slower than their fastest lap that they've set. If it means that they go green, it means they're going quicker than the fastest lap they've individually set. And then if it goes purple, then it means they are currently setting the fastest sector time in that out of anyone in the race or the session. So at the moment, everything's yellow because they've all gone out there and done their qualifying sims and set their fastest laps. They're on 12 lap, 10 old lap hard tyres, as you can see with the tyre history. Tells you what tyres they've been using, how many laps they've used them for. So yeah, that's pretty much kind of all the information you need. Last lap, how many pit stops they've made, whether they've got DRS open or closed. If it's green, it means they've got DRS open. If it's dulled out, it means they've got it off. And they're actually no, hang on, does it mean they've got it open? Yeah. Hang on. Are they opening it or not? I can't tell. If it means they've got it available, I can't remember. But yeah, I think it actually goes full green. I don't think the DRS is working at the moment. But yeah, and then of course you've got the interval between them and the car in front. That is not really relevant at the moment in the practice session because we're not racing. When we're racing, the interval will mean how close they are to the car in front, and then the gap will be to the leader. So yeah, actually, yeah, you can see that. You can see the interval here. So Alonso is 0.08 behind Russell with his fastest lap, and vice versa with all of them down to 20th. And then the gap is what it is, the gap to the leader. And then in a race scenario, that will all be updating itself on the regular. So yeah, no, looking forward to the race on Saturday. Saturday, guys, not Sunday. Saturday. And yeah, we've only got just over 5 minutes. So I think the big story of this session has been that the two Mercedes are at the top there. Verstappen is only 6th. Alonso 3rd, Sainz 4th, Piastri 5th, Verstappen 6th, Hulkenberg up there in 7th. So the fact Hulkenberg's up there, although he is 5 tenths off of Hamilton, doesn't really say a lot. But even so, I mean, how often last year in practice sessions was Max Verstappen 6th place? I don't think he ever really was. I think he was always in the top 3. Always in the top 3 when it came to practice sessions. So, look, you have to take any bit of positivity and hope you can, guys, that we're going to get a closer championship this year. So, Ramadan starts in a couple of weeks, Vlad. I think it's a couple of weeks. And they've brought the first 2 races, which, of course, are countries which are very strong in the Muslim faith and we're practicing it. They've brought them forward a day early, basically. So Bahrain is starting on Saturday, and so is Saudi Arabia, and then we're back to north Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's why there's also talk as well of Australia being the first race of the season next year, because I think Ramadan moves every year. It's brought forward. I think it's there's any people who practice the Muslim faith in here will be able to better let me know. But yeah, I think it's brought forward every year. It gets earlier and earlier, basically. Like it's not like Easter where it's always like March or April. It moves. It's earlier and earlier every year. So yeah, that's probably why I think Australia will be possibly the first race of the season next year. Which wouldn't be a bad thing. We've gone a long time without Australia being the first race of the season. Right. Piastri back. He's out onto some medium tyres. Interesting. Norris just running laps down the bottom there. I don't know. I'm worried about McLaren. Guys, I'm worried about McLaren. Genuinely am. If they get beaten by RB, that's a very, very poor start for them this week. For this season. Piastri up there in 5th is kind of like their saving grace at the moment, but they didn't look great in testing. They didn't look great in FP1. Already a technical issue for Norris. But the Alpines are down there, which we kind of expect this year. Gasly and Ocon. I mean, has anyone watched Drive to Survive? Was there any need for Alpine to have 2 episodes this season? Bit overkill, wasn't it? Bit overkill. So we've got there. Sargent's up in 13th. Magnussen 14th. He's done 17 laps on those set of softs, by the way. I haven't finished it actually, but I've got up to the Alpine stuff and I'm like, really? Is there much? I mean, then again, it was a bit of a boring year, wasn't it? There was no silly season, Otmar leaving. Like the Alpine drama, if you call it drama, was like the only like movement we saw out of team principals and drivers. There was no driver movement at all last year. I think the first season ever in F1 history that all drivers have been retained for the next season. So we have no rookies anymore. Everyone out on that grid has done a full season. So, yeah. Expecting more from the ending considering the Lewis move. Yeah, I think it's happened too late. I mean, I haven't seen those last episodes yet, but Netflix are probably bloody kicking themselves because they wrapped up. I think they wrap up filming for the season and probably hand over all the footage after the last race. Like once that last week is done, that's it. Straight into editing. They've probably been editing before that anyway. And yeah, they have 2.5 months, 3 months to get it out. Then they start filming for the next season. And but they were like, if only we could have added it on to this season, like tagged it on to the end as like a bonus episode, it would have been amazing, wouldn't it? It would have been amazing for him, and it would have been a it would have been a great like advert for this season to G people up for it, because last season was, while it was the most dominant, it was also, as in a lot of people's eyes, one of the most boring. As I said, we've gone from the closest championship ever and most exciting season probably ever in F1 history in 2021 to then two of the most dominant. And with dominance, unfortunately, in a lot of people's eyes, it's boring, probably to the neutral anyway. And yeah, it's not been ideal. Whereas that Gunther Steiner leaving and Hamilton's move to Ferrari, yeah, that would have been a great advert and get people hyped for this season. But yeah, they're going to have to save it for next year. There we go, guys. Checkered flag. So, in the only practice session we're going to get this week, which is in the same time and conditions we will see for qualifying tomorrow and on Saturday for the race, we have Hamilton and Russell in first and seconds. Who would have thought that in any of the sessions? Because people were genuinely going out there and doing quali sims. Alonso in third, Sainz fourth, Piastri fifth, Verstappen sixth. I'm sure someone will be able to tell me, but I'm pretty sure we didn't see Verstappen. I'm pretty sure we didn't see Verstappen finish sixth at all in any of the practice sessions last year. I'm pretty sure he was top 5, top 3 for like all of them. Hulkenberg 7th, so yeah, maybe there's a bit of quali pace in that Haas. Maybe they've just been focusing so much on their race strategy and their race pace, then they have just sitting outright lap times. Maybe they're not as bad as we first think. We'll see. Stroll 8th, Leclerc 9th, Perez 10th, Albon, Ricciardo, Sargent, Magnussen, Tsunoda, then Gasly, Bottas, Ocon, Zhou. Alpine's, I think, are really going to struggle. And then Norris has some technical issues, which he never never allowed him to go out and do a proper quali sim, which is why he's down in 20th. So just focused on his race sims. So, but yeah, there we go, guys. That is the end, as they're all lining up now to do their start procedures. But tomorrow, join me for the qualifying. Qualifying will be on at 4 o'clock UK time, I think. Wherever you are in the world, 4 o'clock. I'll try and go live a little bit earlier compared to today. It may be right on the nose of starting because it is still a working day for me, although I'm working from home. I'm going to try and start work earlier and finish earlier and let my boss know. But yeah, no, thanks, guys. This is the first of many this season. We have 24 races ahead of us. As I said, I'm going to try and make every single race that I can. Sprint races, I'm not overly fussed with because it's a lot to commit to over a weekend. I still have a life, I still have a family and commitments that I have to adhere to. But yeah, I'm planning on doing every race this year if I can, and I'll let you guys know in advance if I can't. And of course, with the odd practice session sprinkled in as well, because I love F1 and I love talking to you guys. And hopefully that right there, what we've seen in this practice session, is an indication of what we are going to get this year. Not necessarily Mercedes up there, but a closer and tighter fight for wins up front, and not just Red Bull driving off into the distance like they have done before. But yeah, I think the first two practice sessions have kind of indicated that unless Red Bull are really like holding something in their back pocket in regards to pace and they still haven't pushed yet, it could be closer. But maybe they've been also told, let's be told that they're also on the side. They might have been told on the side as well, pulled into a room by the head of FIA and gone, look, you need to like just give people some hope. Like don't make people turn off on Saturday. At least make them tune in, okay? And then you can drive off into the distance. Don't go and top every practice session and qualifying, okay? I mean, I get more cynical as I get older, and it wouldn't surprise me if they have been told that. But yeah, I still thoroughly expect to see Red Bull be out in front at least up until the summer break. And I think as long as they don't get away too far, the development game is going to be really important this year. And I think the likes of Ferrari and Mercedes, I worry for McLaren. I really do worry for McLaren. Hopefully they are able to pull something, pull a result out of the bag. Bahrain's never been a strong race for them. Hopefully they have some performance somewhere and able to score some points and then kick on from there. But yeah, I think Ferrari and Mercedes are the realistic teams to take it to Red Bull this year. So we'll see. Would it be amazing to have a 3-team battle or more? Of course it would be. It would be great. It would be great. I mean, look, we would just like there to be a championship battle, wouldn't we, between two drivers? Who those two drivers are, don't care at the moment. After the last 2 years, I think we just want to see competition. That's what we want to see. We want to see competition. So, and I want to see wall-to-wall racing and get a buzz. I know the racing was close last year behind Max, but I don't know. When it comes to racing, yes, podiums are important. Ultimately, we look at who's finishing first. Like, all these guys are out here to try and win races and win championships. So, but yeah, there we go, guys. That is the end of this stream. I am going to go do some practice now for my own F1 race this evening. If you want to tune in for that, we have the 100% Grand Prix. Max reporting the upshift in the start is bad, so bad. So Max isn't happy with his car, I don't think. Of course, they've made changes to that Red Bull. Are they positive changes? They think so, but maybe they'll have some teething issues. So we'll see. We'll see. So one more practice session tomorrow. But yeah, I'm going to be doing a stream this evening for a 100% limp race in the W13, unfortunately, because we haven't got a new F1 car at the Nürburgring. So yeah, because we don't have the Bahrain Grand Prix. We have like an equivalent. So, but yeah, no, have a lovely rest of your evening, guys, and hopefully see you in a few hours' time. First watch along done. Much appreciated. Hit the like and subscribe button, turn those notifications on, and if you can't join me this evening, we will be back tomorrow for the first qualifying session of the 2024 season. It's shaping out to be a good one and an interesting one, so don't be sure to miss it, okay? I'll see you then. Bye.